It was in May that DOT put out a rule that indicated that we were going to take out of service truck drivers who were not proficient in speaking the English language. Now, when we did that, there was a lot of press that complained to us that we were being unfair to people. And what we said was, no, this is a safety issue. All of us in America saw what happened in Florida. We tested this individual after the crash, but no doubt could not speak the English language and could not understand road signs. We are not going to tolerate states that don't comply with the rules: Washington, California, and New Mexico. Those are the three states that have not complied with this rule. We are going to give these states 30 days to come into compliance with truck drivers speaking proficiently the English language, or we're going to look at federal funding. As we start, I just want to take a moment and thank President Trump for his leadership in the executive order that he made clear that we're going to put safety in America first on our roadways. We appreciate his leadership. By way of taking a trip down memory lane, it was in May that DOT put out a rule that indicated that we were going to take out of service truck drivers who were not proficient in speaking the English language. We announced that in May, and it was going to go in, it did go into effect at the end of June. Now, when we did that, there was a lot of press that complained to us that we were being unfair to people, that we were being mean to people. And what we said was, no, this is a safety issue. Making sure drivers of very heavy 80,000-pound rigs can speak the language is truly a critical safety issue. And some complained about it. We implemented it at the end of June, and all of us in America saw what happened in Florida, where we had an individual who we tested this individual after the crash, but no doubt could not speak the English language and could not understand road signs when he was operating that very deadly rig. And so we at DOT and federal motor carriers, we are not going to tolerate states that don't comply with the rules that come from this department. And so we are going to, first of all, we've identified several states that have not been in compliance. That would be Washington, California, and New Mexico. Those are the three states that have not complied with this rule, which, by the way, this driver in Florida had received a CDL in Washington, California, and was pulled over in July for speeding, and no doubt couldn't speak the English language. And law enforcement in New Mexico did not take his rig out of service. So this one driver touched all three states. Based on our review, they are not complying with our rule. And so phase one for us, which I'm announcing today, is we are going to give these states 30 days to come into compliance with truck drivers speaking proficiently the English language, or we're going to look at federal funding that they receive under the Motor Carrier Safety Assistance Program. So I believe California is 20 million or 30 million? 30 million. Washington is 10 million, and New Mexico is 7 million. Correct. Jesse will confirm that in a second, but these are millions of dollars. By the way, this is phase one. There are other actions that we can take to make sure states comply. And hopefully in the next 30 days, we won't have to withhold any money from them. But if they don't come into compliance, we will start with withholding this money, and then we will take additional steps to guarantee compliance. And this is not, just to be clear, this is not just about saying we have some obscure rule that we want them to comply with, that truck drivers speak English proficiently. This is about keeping people safe on the road. Your families, your kids, your spouses, your loved ones, your friends, we all use the roadway. And we need to make sure that those who are driving big rigs, semis, can understand the road signs, that they've been well trained, and that when they're pulled over by law enforcement, they're stopped by law enforcement, or there's a crash and law enforcement responds, they can effectively communicate what they have on their rig. There might be a history that they have to be able to communicate to law enforcement when they're pulled over or there's an accident. And if they can't do that, that creates a significant issue for the traveling public. And so this is step one. And again, we hope there'll be compliance in the next 30 days. If not, we'll take additional steps. With that, I do want to turn it over to our Chief Counsel from Motor Carriers, Jesse Ellison, to talk a little more about what our plan is and how we're going to move forward. Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Before I explain the enforcement actions that FMCSA will take, I want to emphasize the two dates that you mentioned. May 20th is the date that the Secretary directed FMCSA to implement a new policy, and part of that policy included the assessment to determine whether a driver could meet the English language proficiency requirement. And by June 25th, when CVSA, the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, the alliance of the state partners, put the new out-of-service rule into effect, they shared that policy with the assessment as part of it with all of the state partners. And so all of the states have had this information since May 20th and at the latest since June 25th. Today, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration will be serving a notice of proposed determination of nonconformity to the states of California, Washington, and New Mexico. And this notice proposes a finding of noncompliance with the Motor Carrier Safety Assistance Program, commonly referred to as MCSAP, with the qualifying conditions. This notice, the MCSAP program is FMCSA's main formula grant program, and it provides financial assistance to states to reduce the number of severity of crashes and injuries and fatalities. MCSAP funding requires the states to adopt and enforce laws and regulations compatible with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations, which includes the English language proficiency requirement. And let me just quote what that requirement is that the Secretary described just a minute ago. But commercial drivers must be able to read and speak the English language sufficiently to converse with the general public, to understand highway traffic signs and signals in the English language, to respond to official inquiries, and to make entries on reports and records. The states must enforce ELP requirements to maintain MCSAP funding. Even before the tragic accident in Florida, taking 3 lives, FMCSA reached out earlier this month to all of the state partners and asked a couple of questions. We were reviewing the enforcement data, and we wanted to know what your plan was, and if you did not have a plan, what actions you were taking to deprioritize your non-enforcement actions. And so we took that feedback and reviewed that in combination with the data that we were reviewing. And part of that data that I'll share with you right now. But those answers were critical in determining these notices to California and Washington and New Mexico because they didn't have a plan or they hadn't communicated with us the steps that they would take to deprioritize what they weren't doing. What we found in determining California between the enforcement date of June 25th and August 21st, so through last week, was that California has done about 34 investigations where they actually cited a violation, and one of those involved the English language proficiency requirement. Very importantly, California inspected over 20 drivers who had previously been cited in other states for an English language proficiency violation and were taken out of service. So what that means is subsequent to that violation, they drove again in California, and California did not honor that previous violation. In Washington, there have been, over that time period from June 25th to August 21st, about just over 5,000 inspections that resulted in a violation, 6 of which did have the ELP requirement, 2 of which were not properly done within the commercial zones. But like California, Washington had at least 4 drivers come into their state who had previously been cited for an ELP requirement violation and put out of service. And they did not respect and honor that previous violation. In New Mexico, over that same time period from June 25th to August 21st, New Mexico has provided 0 violations out of over about 5,000 inspections. And like Washington and California, drivers came into New Mexico, about at least 7 drivers who had previously been cited and put out of service for the English language proficiency requirement. And yet New Mexico, just like Washington and California, did not honor that previous violation and returned them out of service. Just to underscore this point, if an out-of-service violation could be various citations, it could be breaks. No state officer is going to look at a previous citation of a brake violation in a state a month before they're doing their inspection and then just not inspect the brakes and just let that driver go on their way. And yet, all 3 of these states are doing that. And they're allowing people to be on the road that were taken off the road. So all 3 of these states will have 30 days from the notice that we send out today to respond to the agency and to provide a corrective plan. And after that 30 days, FMCSA will make a final determination of nonconformity and impose the appropriate sanctions that can be up to withholding all of the MCSAP funding. And as the Secretary said, that's just over, I think, $33 million in California, $10.5 million in Washington, and I think $7 million in New Mexico. We anticipate all of the states coming in compliance. We do not want to penalize the states. We want the states to comply and to enforce the English language proficiency requirement, which is directly related not only to the safety of the citizens of their states, but the citizens of all of the states around all of the United States with drivers driving into those states. And that covers the notices.